Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us from, and you'll have to tell me where, Susan Werner.
Chicago, checking in. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, we are so happy to have you here
Yeah,
on
we
this
are.
Friday. And if you are new to the Back Catalog Listening Party, we have some of our regulars checking in early. Then please tell us. Tell us in the comments where you are tuned in from, what you're drinking. At least for us in the Central Time Zone, at least on Fridays, we consider this happy hour time.
Yep.
So we have our beverages going. And Tony, what are you drinking today?
You know, I'm staying local this week here with Summit Brewing's just classic EPA, Extra Pale Ale.
I hear they are celebrating their 35th anniversary
Yes,
soon.
yes.
So that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting. That's awesome. And
How about
Susan, what are you drinking?
To go along with today's theme of gospel and all church-related items, I'm drinking a Presbyterian, which is 2 ounces Scotch, because the Presbyterian Church was founded in Scotland, 2 ounces ginger ale, 2 ounces club soda.
Awesome.
Well, I might be drinking, this might just be an Episcopalian. It's just Scotch on the rocks. And
This is just a mug of guilt here at Catholic. So cheers to both of you.
Woo.
And cheers to all of you out there listening. We have our good friend Alan, who's tuning in with it's still GNT weather in Dallas. That's awesome. Connie, our good friend in Richfield, great to see you. And Joe, it's been a while. It's good to see you here in Michigan with the Fulton Lonely Blonde, repping the Fulton. I love that. And we have Sue in Ontario, Canada. All right. And saying that this is her favorite Susan Werner album. And we have Seth here in Los Angeles, drinking in love. I love it. This is so great. So, like Ellen was saying, this is our weekly happy hour where we get to do what we love the most, which is be together, listen to music, and geek out about songwriting, recording, all of those things. And so if we want you to be part of this conversation too, so if you're new to the show, this is very informal. You just hop in the comments. If you have questions for Susan, just put them in there and we'll try to get to them throughout the show.
Yep, that's pretty much it. And we know that there's probably a lot of folks hopping on here who are Susan Werner fans. But for some of the few folks, Susan, that might not know who you are or the kind of music that you do you want to give us a little, the 2-minute bio of your life, the movie of your life, if you will, and what maybe contextualize this record for us that we're going to listen to?
If I understood the question right, because I have cell phone towers right across the hall from me now, which is like crazy. So I have so much tinfoil in here to try to keep it out. But I'm probably going to have to move my office. So you'll forgive me if I misunderstand your questions from time to time in this hour. But if you ask for a little background on the record. So first of all, I'm a songwriter. I grew up on a farm in rural Iowa. And then went to school for music. I love music. I'm a musician first, writer second. So I'd put out probably about 10 different records by the time I made this record in 2007. And it came about for a variety of reasons. But one was certainly that those of us in same-sex couples felt really targeted by the 2004 election and just selected as scapegoats. And that was used as a wedge in that election to kind of separate factions in this country, and and the church was, the church is aligned on different sides of that, but certainly that was part of the energy too. And I think that that along with the death of a friend kind of came together as energy that produced some compulsion to do this, and I felt like this was a record very much mine to do, and I felt so much that it was mine to do that my manager at the time, Larry Goldfarb, who I think, Ellen, Larry and I had a discussion about this. And I said, Larry, I'm going to do a gospel project that puts songs of doubt next to songs of faith. And he says, Suze, who was going to buy this? And I said, I don't know, but I know I have to do it. And this record turned out to be a really kind of a breakthrough moment for me, I think, because in these songs, There's some willingness to tell some uncomfortable truths and not people please so much. And so you have the fans that really love what it is you're doing and saying, and some people get up and walk out. And we'll talk more about that later. But that's how this record came about, and it's been really rewarding to play these songs, and they remain part of my set list all around the country.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Well, we are so excited to dive into it today. Again, the album that Susan is talking about is The Gospel Truth. It came out in 2007. And we have a lot of songs to get through. So why don't we just dive in, and then we can just to give folks a taste of this record, and then we can talk more about the songs, and again about the performances of these songs and all that jazz. So the first track is the first track on the record, Why Is Your Heaven So Small? Is there anything you want to say about this before we listen?
I think the song will tell the story.
All right. Let's give it a listen. This is Susan Werner. Why Is Your Heaven So Small? Here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Excuse me, sir, what did you say? You shout so loud it's hard to tell. You say that I must change my ways, for I am surely bound to hell. Well, I know you'd damn me if you could, but my friend, that's simply not your call. If God is great and God is good, why is your heaven so small? You say you know, you say you've read that holy Bible upon the shelf. Do you recall when Jesus said, judge not lest ye be judged yourself? For I know you damn me if you could, but my friend, that's simply not your call. If God is great and God is good, why is your heaven so small? With your fists that shake and your eyes that burn, what makes you do these things you do? I would not be surprised to learn someone somewhere excluded you. But my friend, imagine it if you would, a love much mightier than us all. Oh, if God is great and God is good, why is your heaven so small?
All right.
Yeah.
Susan Werner kicking off the back catalog listening party today with the first track from her 2007 album, The Gospel Truth, which we are revisiting today on the show. And again, if you are new to the show, I know there's a lot of folks in the comments who said it's their first time joining us for the back catalog listening party. This is what we do. We listen to music and we talk about it. We answer your questions, and we have the artists get to give us the live liner notes version of the album, what went into the writing of the songs, the recording. And in that song, Susan, there is a lot of musical layers. Joe mentioned this. He said it's one for the headphones, which I agree.
Yeah.
In addition to the outstanding lyrics, so many fine layers to the mix. And there's a lot of different instruments and styles feeding into that song. Tell us a little bit about how you approached the recording of this song.
Glenn Barrett, the producer in Philadelphia, who's a legendary Grammy-winning, terrific producer, he does a lot of gospel records. And so he had this vast stable of musicians to call upon for this project. And in our conversations, I said something like, can we go from like Appalachia to Istanbul? And he says, I got it.
I thought I heard some drums there from the Middle East and
Oh my
sitar
God,
sounds.
he just nailed it. And to kind of expand, right, beyond just like, and also this is in the wake of 2001, right, where religion may have played a role in some of the terrorism against our country. So the feeling of, right, extremism not only in American Christianity, but this kind of exclusionary, right, this emphasis on exclusion. You are not us, you are the other. And to take that from us and to try to like expand it as big as possible. When I play this song live, I try to actually do that, almost like a map on your phone. If you go like this, right? If you go like this, then you get further away, right? You get closer in, or you get further away. And like I try to envision expanding as large as possible for as many people who might feel this in whatever their tradition may have been or whatever tradition they encounter.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I can very much hear that. And I love that the record starts off this way, because it definitely sets the tone. Because if one just saw this CD either at a merch table or on a rack in a store and saw the church on the cover and saw the gospel truth, and then they listen to this first song, or even maybe look at the song titles on the back, they might be like, oh, this might not be what I thought it was going to be.
I imagine there was probably a few of those purchases.
Yeah, on Amazon, the reviews, you can read a few where, they're like, what? I hope she enjoys hell. And it's like, but yeah, it's the gospel truth that isn't, I think we did in the artwork, I think we turned the R around. We kind of tried to, give hints of like, this is going to come in from the side, folks. But yeah, it's non-traditional, and for the better and for the worse, it's non-traditional. Didn't we do something here? No, we didn't.
Maybe something hidden.
Oh yeah, the E.
Oh,
right.
Let's bring that back here.
The E is turned around. That you might not notice. That.
I see. In the word
too
gospel.
subtle. Subtle.
See, these are the kind of little factoids that you might have overlooked.
And tell us about the church on the cover too, and why you did choose to put a church on the cover, given that I know sometimes you refer to this as your agnostic gospel album.
Well, you got to go right at it, right? I mean, you got to say what it is. I tend to think in terms of marketing, err on the side of the obvious, because the subtle takes more time than most of us have energy to work through in the aisles of Walmart or online or anywhere, right? So just say what it is you're talking about. And yeah, we're talking about the American church.
Yeah. And we'd love to hear your comments. And a lot of folks were saying how timely the song is and how much they love the record. So there's a lot of fans of this album. But do you remember the first time you performed this song, and were you nervous about it at all? And what was the reaction?
Was I nervous about putting the record out?
Or did you perform it first, or did you release the record first?
I think I started playing some of the songs out, and the response within, my little focus group of a world was just really intensely good, right? Like, I'm over here on the left side of the spectrum, so there's plenty of room for me. But when I went and toured when I toured this record and took it around the country, Rockford, Illinois, Raleigh, North Carolina, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, some places you play, you're stepping on it. You're stepping right on the landmine. And sometimes, you learn not to introduce the songs. Don't talk. Let the songs talk. Because if there's one thing I've learned in this career, it's that you can say almost anything if you say it in a song. People will respect something said within the context of a well-written song. Do that. Let the song talk and go right on to the next song. That I swear by that now.
That is wise advice.
That's how you put out put it out in the, there's a big entertainment happening this evening, and there's this little moment of, and then back to the, right? Back to the entertainment.
Well, art can be interpreted, right? Like art can be interpreted in many different ways, and I agree. I think that's great. Sometimes not giving it too much context helps it kind of grow into what it really could be.
Yeah, for sure. And again, so great to hear so many different styles of gospel music represented on this record. And the next track we're going to listen to is kind of like the other end of that, I feel like, a little bit. So the last one definitely had some of those kind of country Appalachian sounds, had some of those, that sound, as well as you said, some of the more global sonics. But this one has a kind of, real churchy gospel choir kind of vibe. Help Somebody. When you wrote this, is that how you envisioned hearing this song?
Yeah, I had been to the Chicago Gospel Music Festival, which I just want to say for any of your viewers who have never been to a gospel music festival or a church that has a really swinging choir, you owe it to yourself. I mean, it is a language, a genre of music that is as valid as any being taught in any conservatory or in anywhere in the world. I mean, it's a kind of language. It's a chordal language. The drum parts are specific. And you know more about it than you think, right? You already, right?
I'm sorry, I already got into it. Yeah.
Right away, it starts happening. And it's a language but there's so much going on that is so rich in that world. And you owe it to yourself to check it out. And so I went to the Chicago Gospel Music Festival with my friend Kenny Feinberg, Jewish. And she says to me, I love this. And I said, I know, I love this. And she said, how do you get the joy without the Jesus? I said, good question, right? And I thought, hope. Right? Hope and generosity are the essential messages of the gospel, whether Jesus is the vehicle or not. And so, to me, anyway. And so I wrote this song, which is part of agnostic gospel, if you will. I don't think Jesus or God shows up at all. I think you just help somebody.
All right. This is Help Somebody. Susan Werner on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
How do you love those?
I don't think that's the right one.
No.
But
right.
Actually, although it's in the same theme,
It
and hopefully
is,
we'll get to
I
that
had it in the
song
wrong
later.
order. My apologies to everybody. Help me help somebody. Here we go. We found the right track here, and we're gonna let the song do the talking. Help Somebody, Susan Werner on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Who never will.
Nope.
I got plenty of
Yeah, there we go.
All right, everybody,
What
clap along with
do
us
I
at home
do?
now.
Plenty and then some. What do I do? I got plenty and then some. What do I do now? I go out and help somebody. Get plenty and then some too. I got a roof over my head. What do I do? A roof over my head. What do I do? I got a roof over my head. What do I do now? I go out and help somebody get a roof over their head too. I got supper on the table. What do I do? I got supper on the table. What do I do? I got supper on the table. What do I do now? I go out and help somebody get supper on the table too. That's what I do. 'Cause I got it to give. I got it to give. And when you got enough to give away, well, that's the only way to get to heaven too.
Amen.
Yeah.
Susan Werner here on the back catalog listening party from her 2007 album, The Gospel Truth, which we are revisiting today on the show. That was Help Somebody. And I love at near the end of that song, Susan, that it talks about, I help somebody to get into heaven too, which following, on the album, this comes right after Why Is Your Heaven So Small? So I kind of love the thread of like, we're all in this together.
Yeah, and heaven can be right. You can have your heaven. I can have my heaven. I'm good with that. Your heaven, right? I got room. My heaven has room for you. Everybody in, all of us in, everybody in. I did have a thought while revisiting that song. What's going on in that song? There's all kinds of musicians on that track. I mean, there's a white piano player, there's a white drummer, there's a black bass player, a black guitar player, and there are 6 members of a local black church choir singing in, they just stacked their harmonies on that record. And so does this sound, let me just ask this, does this sound to people hearing it now? In 2007, maybe that didn't sound this way, but now, right, is this a Paul Simon moment? Is this a cultural appropriation moment where I'm, making use of, right, white woman of, some means, modest means, but still, right? This is not my tradition. Am I using something that is not mine to use? I want to ask this because I think it's worth asking, right? And maybe what are your thoughts on that, the two of you? And maybe you don't want to, this may not be what your show is about, but I just kind of want to put that out there. Like, okay, this may not be my name. That is not my native musical language. But it's part of the style catalog of gospel music. So do I, right? What do we think? Am I entitled to do this? Or is it a little, in hindsight, am I going over the line in some way?
It's an interesting question.
It is an interesting question, and we'd love folks to weigh in the comments. I personally, when I hear this, I hear so many styles going on. I don't really pigeonhole it as to one thing. So at least certainly with the record overall. So I feel like you're drawing on lots of different church traditions and incorporating them into the music. So it doesn't feel that way to me. But of course, when you say it, it's always different too. Or you're like, and I brought in all these black players, but who you paid to bring onto the session. But you're right. These are kind of sounds. However, I don't know how you can separate the sounds of gospel and blues from American music in general, because they're so
it underlies most of what we do: rock, bluegrass, folk. I mean, but I think in this context, at least for me, like I think there's this element of you as an artist doing this agnostic record. The first album with the sitar and the doombek or whatever, like that was a conscious choice to bring a listener to a place, right? A place that is juxtaposed with the lyrics. And I kind of feel the same thing in this track. It's not as much the juxtaposition as it is bringing someone to a place, and I think this music does that. I mean, it instantly takes me there and makes me feel the spirit of the words in that sense. That's just my opinion.
Well, I hope, right? I mean, this is one track among many on a record, right? I still like making records. I'm old school like that. And again, this is one stop on the train line, right? So the first one you heard was much more kind of almost like Hazel Dickens or something, in a stripped down form. And then when you do all the instruments on it, it gets big. But that first song was kind of Appalachian, and then this one is very much Black church to me. And I like making records because I like bringing in multiple points of view. It isn't just one thing, because that's how we understand anything, really, is to see all the way around it and to turn whatever or the object of our fascination or interest is to turn it all the way around and to see all the sides of it, the good, the bad, the tricky, the wonderful, inspirational. So for those of you that have thoughts on this, I welcome all of it. And again, that's part of the fun of doing a project like this, is that there is plenty to dig into, right?
And it's creating some good dialogue here
Yeah.
in the comments. I mean, I'd say the most people chiming in are saying things like Darlene here, that she thinks you're paying homage to a beautiful musical tradition, and you did it, well and respectfully. And that seems to be the overall idea here.
And we heard from Susie earlier, who said, I miss hearing Help Somebody Live. I was in your gospel choir when you did this at the Midwinter Singing Festival in East Lansing. So she actually got to sing so actually this brings up a good question. When you toured this album, I know when you played Minneapolis, as I recall, you played the big Presbyterian church in downtown Minneapolis. Did you, when you booked this tour, did you consciously try and go into different spaces than you normally performed in?
We were certainly open to, churches booking me. And I will tell you that certain, let's see, Reform synagogues and Unitarian churches had me in. No Mormon churches had me in, unfortunately, and no Catholic churches had me in. But and I would be eager to play those. I actually went to a Mormon service as part of the research for this, and that was fascinating to me. What I remember about it, for those of you that may not know, I didn't know this. I went to a Mormon service at the invitation of some Mormon friends in Las Vegas, and they sang the hymns in unison. In unison. There was no harmony. That was amazing to me, and sort of telling in some way that I don't even want to comment any further on, other than just to say that was amazing to me.
I think that's amazing that you were doing research for this. I love that you were going to services outside of what you were familiar with, and again, that kind of circles back to this idea of what you're bringing into the album then too. Like any artist that is putting a piece together. You're out there, observing, and then your job is to put those observations out into the world. And I think that's really cool to hear that you were, in the trenches, singing in unison. Did you join them? Nice.
And when you performed in these different spaces, again, someone mentioned that they were part of a choir in East Lansing. Did you bring in local choirs to perform? Did you bring in a band with you? How did you approach touring these shows?
Usually I had Trina Hamlin with me, who's an amazing harmonica player. She played a lot of tambourine on this tour, and you heard tambourine in that song. I mean, tambourine is a part of the church in America, for sure. And then we'd usually add one local bass player who hopefully sang harmonies. So at least we'd have 3 harmonies going. I can't possibly recreate a choir or put them on a bus. I'm not Madonna. I can't bring over the musicians from the Cape Verde Islands, all 40 of them, and put them up at the DoubleTree. But we did the best we could with the materials available. I would love to have had a choir. That would have been great. But again, there's that's a lot of Panera bread to buy for a lot of people.
For sure. Well, again, if folks have thoughts on these songs or about anything we're talking about, feel free to throw them in there. Also, questions for Susan. One comment we had was from Seth, and he said he hoped that we would play Forgiveness, which is his favorite song on this record. So we will. That's actually we have it queued up next.
I was trying to play for you, Seth. A couple times it jump started there, I think.
Tony was jumping the gun right there. So we are going to hear that next. And is there anything you want to say about this to introduce it, or
No, let's just.
That's right. Talking less is good, is what you said.
Yes, right. Now we not to ask that question. All right, let's give it a listen. This time it's queued up and ready to go. Let's give it a listen. Susan Werner, Forgiveness, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
How do you love those who never will love you, who are happy to shove you out in front of the train? How do you not hate those who would leave you lie bleeding while they hold their prayer meeting? How do you not hate those who have loaded their Bibles and armed their disciples? 'Cause I don't know anymore. I don't know. And I can't find forgiveness for them anywhere in this. And with God is my witness, I really have tried. How do you love those who never will love you? I think only God knows. And He is not taking sides. I hope one day He shows us how we can love those who never will love us, but who still we must love.
Forgiveness by Susan Werner from her 2007 release, The Gospel Truth, which we are revisiting today on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Susan,
Powerful.
chatting about the songs. And yeah, we'd love to have your comments, questions about the song, about the record, about for Susan. Yeah, and that song, I think, to me, gets me every time I hear it, because I think we've all had those moments, especially this past couple years. I don't know. This album seems to get more resonant, not less so.
Yeah.
I don't know what that, well, I think I know what that says about our country right now, but I feel like, I think we all, from wherever we're coming from, I think we all feel this tension, right? Of like, I love that family member, but why? You know?
Yes.
You know?
And yeah, you don't have to fill in that blank.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, thank you for that song. Is there anything else you want to say about at least the recording of it, even if you don't want to talk about the content?
Good track. I haven't heard that track in a long time, and there's just a lot going on. The one thing I want to mention is listening to that track is the drums.
Yeah.
I mean, if
that
you
snare.
just killing it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who played the drums on this. I'd have to go look, but we had, you put a plexiglass cage up. If you go to many churches in the United States, you'll see the plexiglass cage around the drums, right? And it enables the drummer to just kill it. I mean, that live energy of a gospel track, that is the excitement of that. Lots of cymbals and whack. I mean, bam, boom, just wow. The drums is a big part of the excitement of gospel music, and that track has just great drums on it. Tremendous. Also, the organ just like took us right there.
Yeah, and were you playing like a real
God, no.
organ for that?
Oh, God,
okay,
no.
I was-
You get somebody who can really do that. I mean, again, like Glenn had at his disposal so many people who play in real churches for real feeling, so I'm not going to try to ham-hand it.
Had you? I mean, you were just nailing those like church changes in the song and stuff. Had you had any background? Were you ever playing in the choir or in like joining the church group or something back in the
this
day?
kind of thing, is something that during that time I was listening to a lot of church music and right, those chords, those sorts of moves. Da 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 da. This. Right? That stuff. Just the language of it. The chordal language of it is part of what puts you in the space to receive the message, I think. But, my church tradition growing up, I was a little Catholic kid in eastern Iowa. And so, if I may, I made a few notes, Anthony, this
Yes.
may resonate with you. So, for those of you who grew up Catholic like I did, so I'm hearing this from the time I'm a little kid because it was Pope John the 23rd who said that nuns could be groovy, right? It said that the mass could be in the vernacular, in our case English or American English, and that nuns could play, right, guitar. So I was thinking of like. What is this one? Oh, yeah. Right. The King of Glory comes, the nation rejoices. And that sounds to me like a Jewish wedding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
And the gates before him lift up your voice.
I want to dance the horror right now.
Right.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
there's like sons of God, hear his holy word, gather round.
It's taking me
the
back.
table of the Lord. Eat his body, drink his blood, and we'll sing a song of love. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I mean that, right? And I was in
Yeah.
the church doing that stuff at age 16, 15, 16, 17, singing all that. And that's in there, right? That's in us, in our hard drive.
Yeah.
And so even though I don't, go to mass, but there's something about that aesthetic that stays in your world. And part of the effort with this project was to separate out which of those experiences I wanted to keep that I felt were really inspirational, and set aside the ones that felt not so useful and not so benevolent. And I think everybody does this in their own way, is to make good of what has come to you that is good, and to set aside what is no longer useful on your own travels.
Yeah.
And more than one person was transported back to Sunday school here. Darlene says, yeah, and Amy and Sue. Oh my gosh, taking me right back. And I just real quick, while we're still on the topic, Julie, thank you, Julie, for coming in and saying it was Corey Shipley on the drums on that track. Thank
Corey
you.
Shipley. Hey, Julie Stewart has that record. Julie Stewart lived in Philadelphia. There you go, Corey Shipley on the drums. Great.
Awesome.
And this is a question that usually Tony asks, but I'm beating him to the punch. So when you recorded this album and you had this amazing producer and who brought in all these great gospel players and musicians, how did you record it? Did you just start with yourself and build the track from there? Did you do any of this live with the band?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Let me think for a minute. There was a lot of good talent around. It wasn't just me. There was a lot of good talent around. I think I did a lot of this. I sketched out a lot of it with my friend Grant McAvoy on drums. It can be good just between, a guitarist and a keyboard player and a drummer. A drummer can do a lot, right? A drummer can kind of create the roadmap for everybody else who's going to play their parts. So I think it was me and Grant doing a lot of the basic tracks, knowing that, bass was going to come in and, get rid of. They were going to pull my guitar playing, my piano playing was never going to show up on this record, and I was perfectly fine with that. But I think it was me and Grant kind of sketching out the big picture.
Cool.
Well, it sounds great. And we actually, I do want to take this moment because we've been so into the songs and the conversation, which is great, that we actually have not passed around the offering plate for Susan today on the back catalog listening party.
We need some of that piano music now.
Yeah, exactly. Play the offering music, Susan. As folks, yeah, that's right.
If you like what you hear, folks, and Susan's doing it. She really is. She is an artist out there doing the good work. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm not even trying to be funny here. Like, it's so important, the kind of stuff that she's doing. And if you want her to keep doing that, we have to let her know that we appreciate that. So I'm trying really hard to keep this in my own voice here. Scrolling across the screen is a PayPal tip jar and a Venmo tip jar. And if you're feeling it in your heart, please.
See, you're getting lost.
I can't do it. I want to get so emotive, but I also want you to really realize that it means so much to musicians. And if the tip jar thing isn't your thing, and maybe you just want to get a hard copy of this record, Susan, are they still available in CD form?
Ask that last question one more time.
Is the album still available in CD form?
I don't think so.
Okay, well,
I think we have like one copy in my road manager
So if you
Jane's
find
basement
it-
somewhere.
So if you find it on
iTunes.
on eBay, then you want to buy it. Is pretty much.
Yeah, I
what-
think I saw some crazy, something like left in its plastic, like it was like $100. It's dumb.
Oh, I think it just
don't do
doubled
that.
after this episode. Well, you go to her website, susanwerner.com, and you can pick up the high resolution digital files because that's what we're listening to today, and it sounds fantastic. The production's awesome. Like it's in stereo. It's not going through the internet pipes, and it sounds fantastic. So definitely show her how much you appreciate what she's doing by either throwing a little something in the tip jar or buying the record.
And support your local church musicians. I mean, whatever you think of the church, I mean, it is an incubator for talent. It just is. And you got to respect that, You got to respect that.
I will say, as someone who hosts a radio show and sees a lot of press releases and bios, I don't think there's it's very rare that I see an artist bio that doesn't say something like, they got their start playing in the church or, singing in the choir or whatever. So Susan is absolutely right. That is where a lot of the working musicians also get regular paychecks as well. So, so you can support that. Also, I should mention that Susan has a lot of great records and many which draw on many musical traditions. Speaking of which, I was just realizing, Susan, the last time I saw you in real life was at the New Orleans Folk Alliance, where you were playing songs from your New Orleans record with a trombone player. So totally different style of music. So you can check out Susan's vast catalog of material, including her most recent, which Midwesterners.
But that again, is just a musical language, right? It's like, right? That's New Orleans. You just sit down and practice it, and really, I mean, it's available to so many of us who play an instrument to adopt these languages into our own, into our own hands. And you sit down and you practice, and then it starts to get easier, right? It just does. Right? That's called New Orleans junk piano. And the trick with New Orleans piano, I'll stop after this. But it's another fascinating, right, kind of musical flavor, right? And the trick is that the right hand happens after the left hand. Watch this. Right? And that's what makes your ass move.
Yeah.
Right?
You got the bass going
And the
first.
same thing
there.
with the Cuban music, that there's like a desire in your body to resolve the rhythms. There's just so much wonderful.
Yeah,
This is a great line of interest, music. It's never ending. I know you two know, being musicians yourselves, it just never runs out you never run out of candy.
And it really is like the universal language. I mean, it is like we all have it in us, and we all understand it intuitively. That's magical, and I think that's why we do this.
For sure. And we want to hear a little more music before we have to take off
Speaking of
today.
magic.
So Susie requested Sunday mornings. So so I bet we can cue that up for folks.
Yeah,
and
you bet.
by the way, while you're queuing that up, Tony, I should say that Jeff just said she makes it seem so effortless, speaking of Susan, but it is truly amazing how fluent Susan is in so many musical languages. And I would agree with that. So again, check out Susan's vast catalog because you can see her do all kinds of stuff that she's learned over the years, all those tricks.
Speaking of seeing her, Bonnie
That's
wants to
right.
let you know that if you're in Chicago, go see Susan live at Old Town School of Folk Music.
It's a great
October
venue.
22nd. That's
Thanks,
great
Bonnie.
plug,
And you know
Bonnie.
who's on that show is Chris Matthews.
I love her.
Terrific.
She's been a guest on our show, actually.
She's wonderful.
So yeah, that's
Oh.
great. And Susan, we have to ask. We'll make sure we, if you go to that website that we posted earlier, the SusanWerner.com, you can find her tour dates. Are you coming through the Twin Cities anytime soon?
I am not this fall. There
We'll
is a
work on
plan
that.
being hatched.
I like it.
Excellent.
I like it. Well, let's get to this song, Sunday Mornings, and we'll just dive in because we know Susan doesn't want to introduce it.
All right, this is Susan Werner, Sunday mornings here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Sunday mornings, there is some place that I'm supposed to be. Keeps returning, the feeling keeps coming over me. Just like music, or like sunlight on a distant memory. Sunday mornings, Sunday mornings. My mother choosing what to wear. My father combs his jet black hair. We are their little prizes in our Mary Janes and clip-on ties. We hurry down the aisle. The neighbors smile because we're late again. On Sunday mornings, there is some place that I'm supposed to be. Keeps returning. The feeling keeps coming over me, just like music or like sunlight on a distant memory. Sunday mornings, Sunday mornings. Daddy prays because the money's tight. Mama prays she'll raise her children right. And my brother prays he'll change so he won't feel so very strangely out of tune. And I went back the other day, closed my eyes and tried to pray, but a voice spoke loud and clear. You ask too many questions, dear. And I said, you ask too few. That's why I still don't know quite what to do. On Sunday mornings, there is some place that I'm supposed to be. Sunday mornings, Sunday
Those doodaloo-doodaloos kind of take me back in time in a way, like a transporting of time.
Takes me to the Unitarian Church.
And that was Susan Werner with Sunday Mornings by request from her 2007 album, which we are revisiting today on the back catalog listening party, The Gospel Truth. And that song definitely transports me. I'm a PK, pastor's kid, so Sunday mornings were a busy and somewhat stressful time just to get off to the church. I enjoyed being at the church, but I remember it being a production, and I remember getting on the tights and the nice dress, and it was a thing. But I love that song because it gets at all the different layers of what you observe as a kid of going to church.
Yeah, and for you, right, Ellen, that was like game day, right? For your dad, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that he's got to have his message together, and you're part of the. I mean, if you're a preacher's kid, in the end, you're part of the brand, you know. So he wants you to look nice, you know.
Yeah.
And
And-
that. Well, I look forward to your album on this topic because you certainly have one or two or three in there.
Yeah, well, you know,
She
it's
has a
funny.
great gospel album.
I do have a gospel record actually, called "The Devil Hasn't Won" because I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
But it's interesting hearing you talk about these songs because I have some originals on the record, but also I bring in some traditional and gospel songs and covers, but like you, Susan, I really think about like the content. Like there's a lot of songs that I like from a sonic perspective, that I grew up singing. But then when you hear about the lyrics later, you're like, do I really want to put my name behind that? Like, do I want people to think this is exactly what I believe? And I get really choosy about that, as I am with most covers. But I think when it's something sort of more theological, and you're like, is this what I want to be rebroadcasting and amplifying to the world? I think these are really important questions to think about as an artist and as someone with a microphone.
Well, and there's the energy, right? That this was one of those projects that, if you want to play it safe, you don't go near this. You don't go anywhere near this. But that's where but I feel like we're the moths. We're supposed to go toward the flame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So going near those things and stepping on them is, and if you're lucky enough to have an audience that will go with you, you are, forgive the word, but you are blessed.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really blessed that people are interested to hear what comes from some of my creative endeavors, and that they see themselves in it, their own experiences reflected back.
Well, there's been lots of great feedback today, and people are really diving in and listening, and that makes me super excited, because again, that's one of my great joys in the world, is like to put on the headphones and listen to all the little details. And Darlene picked up on something that I heard in this track too, and that is, Darlene said, I've heard this many times, but it's the first time I heard that underlying kind of heartbeat rhythm that was playing in there, and I noticed that too, and that was a definite departure from those power drums in the gospel choir. When you were approaching this particular song, did you have something in mind, percussion-wise, or does this just kind of the feeling that came out?
No, this is where Glenn Barrett is working his magic. I think it was like mallets, yarn mallets, on like a leather stick case. Boom, ding, and those are things I would never come up with. That's where it's really wonderful to have partner in crime who comes up with things and is like, this will stay out of the way of your voice, right? So that the lyrics can tell the story right about in here at in 2K to 8K or so, right? And then you want to use yarn mallets because they're soft. So all of their thudding is going to happen below 2K, 1K, right? I mean, I'm talking about the math of the engineering, but just that it stays out of the way. Boom, ding, ding.
But it keeps it moving, and that's a part of all of these songs. I mean, the rhythms are very important to the message, kind of like you were saying earlier.
Well, and to keep a ballad moving, right? A ballad can just sit there, and not do anything. And so to creating a pulse, like the heartbeat, like you said, that's what a producer, that's what a great producer does.
Well, again, this record sounds great. And if you haven't heard it the way we're hearing it, maybe you're listening on an iPhone or, on your laptop while you're cooking dinner or whatever, definitely go back and listen to this record on a streaming service, or pull out that CD or whatever, because it sounds fantastic.
I heard there's one on eBay for like $1,000.
Yeah. You just checked, didn't you, Tony?
I just upped the bid.
Yeah.
No.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I think the money goes to somebody else, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's always Chuck. It's always Chuck in Cincinnati is making all the money.
Right.
Well, I think we could squeeze in one more song. And we had two requests for this song, which we don't usually get requests for the songs in the back catalog listening party. I just have to say, Susan, because, we dig into old records on the show, and the artist chooses the songs. But Susan picked several songs, which we knew we wouldn't get to all of them. But it's rare that the fans are like, I want to hear this song from this record. So
it's a
you're having a
testament
lot
to
of
like how important this album is to people out there, Susan. So
it
you
really
wondered about that or mentioned that earlier, and
yeah. And so Sue and JT requested this song, Did Trouble Me. And so we're going to listen to that next before we wrap things up today on the show. And get out those listening ears, folks.
Yeah. Let's give it a listen, and then we can chat a little bit about it. This is Susan Werner, Did Trouble Me, on the back catalog listening party.
When I closed my eyes so I would not see, my Lord did trouble me. When I let things stand that should not be, my Lord did trouble me. When I held my head too high, too proud, my Lord did trouble me. When I raised my voice too little, too loud, my Lord did trouble me. did trouble me with a word or a sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind, did trouble me, did stir my soul for to make me human, to make me whole. When I slept too long, slept too deep, my Lord, did trouble me, put a worrisome vision into my sleep, my Lord, did trouble me. When I held myself away and apart, my Lord, did trouble me, and the tears of my brother did move my heart, my Lord, did trouble me, did trouble me with a word or a sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind. It did trouble me, it did stir my soul for to make me human, to make me whole. And of this I'm sure, of this I know, my Lord will trouble me. Whatever I do and wherever I go, my Lord will trouble me. In the whisper of the wind and the rhythm of a song, my Lord will trouble me. To keep me on the path where I belong, my Lord will trouble me. Will trouble me with a word or sign, with the ringing of the bell in the back of my mind, will trouble me, will stir my soul for to make me human, to make me whole, make me human, to make me whole.
All right. Susan Werner with Did Trouble Me from her 2007 album, The Gospel Truth, which we have been revisiting today with Susan Werner joining us live, and a few requests for that song. And I had been a while since I've heard that song, and oh man, this is why I love this show. I get to be reminded of all the great music out there, and now I'm going to re-listen to this record again because I love that song, and a lot of folks out there are loving it as well.
Some tasty dobro work there on this track.
I wrote the same note, Tony.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, nice. That kind of gets my bluegrass, antenna up a little bit.
Yeah,
there.
super tasty, right? That's Mike Brenner. I just did a record with him, the Flyover Country record, and he plays dobro and lap steel, and he just kills it. I mean,
oh, Tony, you have to hear that record because it's really awesome, and it's a very Midwestern record, so you need to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, theme-wise for sure, but also musician-wise. I mean, it's just really, it's country, but it's like, we did it in Philly, and it's country, right? But to talk about that tune you just heard, I don't know if you mentioned this, Ellen, because my headphones are still acting a little funny, but so I get a text one morning from my friend Meredith Tarr. So Meredith, as you know Meredith works for Rachel Sage and Empress Records, and she's just great. So Meredith texts me, she's like, hey, so Tom Jones is singing one of your songs. I text back, shut up. Shut up, right? Texting back, no kidding. I said, shut up. Text back, for reals. And then sends me the link. And sure enough, Tom Jones did a gospel album called Praise and Blame. And you can find it anywhere. And there's a great video on YouTube of Tom Jones singing that song.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. And it's amazing. It's a great video. It has sky and thunder and lightning. And
wow.
It's amazing. And
oh, man.
Yeah. And so you just do a little song like this. You put it out in the world. And evidently the producer, Ethan Johns, produced this record and had heard of me somehow and found this song, put it in front of Tom Jones. Tom Jones said yes and recorded it. And so that bought my minivan. And so my minivan is the Tom Jones minivan.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is fantastic,
I love that. And actually, someone earlier did ask about the Tom Jones experience, and I'm
Yeah,
guessing
I was
that's what they
wondering about
meant.
that. I wasn't sure if we would get there, but
unless
we
you
got
have
there.
another Tom Jones experience. That we
No,
need to know
that's
about.
no, that's the only Tom Jones experience. But ever since then, I've had this strange impulse to throw my underwear in church.
Oh boy.
Wow. Oh man. These are the stories that you get here on the back catalog listening
Yeah,
party. And the
stuff that doesn't make
insights.
it into the liner notes.
No.
No, that's right. For a reason. For a reason.
Oh man. And folks, we're talking about the Susie on Sundays recovery and reunion group, if you haven't already. So yeah, so Susan, I know you did one this past Sunday, but during the pandemic, you did weekly live streams, which were some of my favorite things about the shut-in was your live streams with all the different guests, many of whom have appeared on this show. And I know, Tony, that was your introduction to Susan.
Yeah, right after our episode with the Roaches, I caught them on your show and was just completely blown away by everything, the music, the interview, the production.
It was a strangely successful endeavor. I just think the one thing, I have a great digital coordinator who you know, Ellen, Kelly Lynn Knott up there in Minneapolis. You may
Yay,
know
Kelly.
her too, Anthony. Kelly's the bestest. And she said to me as soon as the big lockdown started, she said, you need to go online. And I'm like, I don't have the tech to do that. She's like, here, go right here, download this stuff, do this. Even if it's ugly, just do it. And I went on the first Sunday, and I couldn't believe how many people tuned in. And that sort of kicked it off right. And then I had some good fortune to have some guests join me, friends like Dar Williams and Jonathan Brooke and Livingston Taylor and David Wilcox, and people coming in and just exchanging songs and keeping people company through the whole thing. The biggest fun was the themed projects, like the wedding program where I bought a secondhand wedding dress and ate a wedding cake and sang. That was wedding night, and I sang all the stupid songs that, you know.
Celebrate. And
Right, that you Right. Right, you have to do all of those. Then the Ave Maria and
Chicken dance.
yeah, oh yeah.
I hope.
So, you know, the live stream, as I was telling you in the sound check, I said, I think for those of us that did a live stream, I mean, we were keeping ourselves company, right, and keeping ourselves organized in some way. But also, people have told me going around the country now doing live shows that it was a kind of connection that was more meaningful than maybe we knew just doing it, because you can't feel. Right? We cannot feel through this thing, can't feel through this thing. But somehow, you know, when we were so separated from each other, this was a way we could hear something familiar, see someone familiar, and maybe sing along, because singing wasn't even a good idea there before vaccinations, right?
yeah.
And there's been a bunch of comments here coming through about saying how much people appreciated what you did on those Sundays, and that's great. Music.
My pleasure.
I feel like people started realizing how much music, you know, ties us together.
Well, and then maybe music, this kind of thing, was a kind of church.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
I very much agree, because anything that brings people together is a good thing, especially now. And speaking of which, we want to thank all of you for coming together with us today, and
Yes.
Susan for joining us. This has been such a fun, quick hour. Well,
This
I
should
guess
have been
hour
like
and five.
a double episode.
Should have been
you
a
know?
double
Yeah.
episode, because you know how
Thanks
can
to
you,
both of you. Thank you so much for having me in, and thanks for, you know, we talked about a couple different records, but I just had a feeling, let's go back and see what this one was made of. And it was great to hear those tracks again and to feel how much sympathy was coming from the musicians, how much feeling was coming from the musicians. You know, you're busy making a record, you don't always get to revisit what was going on, but musicians who are adding to the feeling of what you're saying, it's like, oh my God, it's really humbling as a songwriter to feel that love. And so I thank you for the respin, because that was
Well,
really a delight to hear that.
and you feel that in this record, but also you feel like a theme, as much as it kind of talks about some of the hardships and division. I feel like the overarching themes for me are healing and hope, and I feel that in this record. So it's what my soul needed today. So I'm very excited that we got to share it.
I want to say that too, and I think there's a lot of people like myself. I feel a bit exiled from organized spirituality, but when I hear music like this, I do feel like I can find a community, and I can find sympathetic ears, and it really means a lot. So I'm glad you did this.
I feel like we're either going to church or a ball game.
And once again, we're going to pass the collection plate.
But we should also say that, and we want to, again, thank everyone for coming here. But also, if you like this episode, like it on YouTube. Give it the thumbs up, because maybe more bots will go to Susan Werner.
Yes.
And also, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we do this every week. Not this exact thing every week. Not with Susan Werner. Not doing
No.
gospel music every week. But
Although we are going back to Chicago next week.
we are. That's right.
Yeah, we got the Hen House Prowlers, the
Great
bluegrass
band.
band from Chicago, coming to join us.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they'll be joining us, and we have some other amazing guests coming up in this fall. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also, if you want to go that extra level of supporting the show, then you can join our Patreon. These are the folks that keep the show going. When we started this during the pandemic, like you, Susan, we thought we'd be doing it for like a few weeks.
Yeah,
And,
I
you
thought
know.
it'd be just me and you, and maybe our spouses or something.
Yeah,
tuning in.
exactly. But it turns out folks really liked it, and have liked it beyond being shut in their homes. So these folks have decided that they want to see the show happening all the time. So we are continuing it every week until eternity, or until folks stop listening.
And thank goodness.
Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, and Homestead Pick and Parlor.
Yeah. Our favorite folk music store here in Minneapolis.
That's right. It's where I bought my banjo. So thank you
We
so
couldn't
much.
do it without you.
All you folks, you make it happen. And if you want to join the Patreon, you not only get first look at who all the guests are, we have special after parties, private online shows, all kinds of cool stuff. So, and a few folks were commenting on our bobbing heads. That's something that people keep bringing up. They want to see bobbleheads of me and Tony.
Yeah, maybe
I'm
if we hit a
not
certain mark,
sure.
that could be like a stretch goal or something.
Yeah, exactly. We have not figured out how to do that, or who would create such a thing. But if you have insights, you let us know.
But most of all, just we appreciate you being here. Like it's still, even though like the world is kind of opened back up and in its own way, and things are happening again in person, this is still my favorite hour of the week. And it's because it's for an hour, it's just about music. And
it's not promotion. It's just us listening to music together, which I think, especially for us performing musicians, it's easy to get in the wheel of like promoting your next thing. And I think it's such a pleasure to go back in time and listen to a record, and artists themselves get reminded of all the joy they created in making a record, and our joy in hearing it. So thank you, Susan, for bringing that joy to us today.
You are so welcome. Thanks for having me, you too.
Yeah,
This is great.
And,
So have a great weekend. That's
Have a
pretty
great
much what I was going to say. Enjoy.
all right. My glass is empty. Cheers
Time to go. Cheers.
to a great weekend. We'll see you next week here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.